All right, it is 1:33, so let's go ahead and get started. Um, I'll go ahead and screen share. Can everybody see my screen? The mastering networking
Yes.
make some noise if you cannot. Unmute and make some noise if you cannot see my screen, but I will assume that everybody can, uh, unless they start speaking. Okay, so mastering networking, the best for so a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is going to be pulled from the best book I've ever read on building professional relationships. And it's full disclosure, I read this book 20 years ago. So some of it may be outdated by this time, but the book is called Never Eat Alone. Now I eat alone all the time. I ate alone 45 minutes ago. But the book is called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. Um, his oh, sorry, somebody just jumped into the lobby. Keith Ferrazzi is the Ferrazzi. And if anybody wants to look up that book, it's pretty easy to find on Amazon. If somebody wants to drop the link into chat, I probably should have grabbed a link beforehand, but I didn't. So anybody's welcome to drop the link in chat if you're able to find that book. Really good book on building professional relationships. Um, and so uh, that's what I want. That's going to be my big challenge to you today is thinking of networking in terms of just building relationships, making new friends. For some of us, making friends comes more naturally than for others, and having a lot of friends comes more naturally than for others. And that's okay. It's okay to be an introvert. It's okay to be an extrovert. It's okay to keep a tight circle. It's okay to keep a big circle. But the main thing that I really want to emphasize here is this: the cultivating genuine connections, finding things to care about in others and caring more about more than just what they're able to do for you from a business perspective. Thank you, Marcia, for dropping that link into the chat. So yeah, there's a link to that book, Never Eat Alone. Now it looks like she's got the expanded and updated version, which may have some stuff that I have not read yet. But anyway, getting back to the presentation. So the idea here is you're trying to build business friendships. All else equal, people want to do business with their friends. All else not so equal, people still want to do business with their friends. We've all seen this play out in a million different ways. People want to work with people that they like, and they want to work with people that they are like. Um, so, uh, so that's the deal. So the idea is to find things to care about in others. And you're looking to build rapport. You guys have heard that, I'm sure. But the but what you really want is you just want to find a way to relate to somebody. How to Win Friends and Influence People, by the way, is another great book on this. Terrible title. It sounds subversive. It sounds like you're manipulating people, but it's actually a fantastic book that is focused on the right things, in my opinion. So those are probably the two best books that I've read on like networking, so to speak. And then this is how to put your money where your mouth is on the caring about others. Share your resources and time generously. We'll talk about that. One of the first questions that I try to always ask is, who do you need to meet right now? How can I help you? How can my network help you? That's that's something you want to get to as quickly as possible. And I see Gilles is in the lobby. So uh, looking for ways to use your resources for them. You guys have heard give first. Everybody's familiar with that. And try to do that. Whatever the ways are that it's best and easiest for you to give in those ways right away. And then the final principle here is view networking as an ongoing journey, not a one-time event. You want to maintain these relationships over time. Some of us are really good at maintaining long-term friendships, and some of us, myself included, have needed a lot of practice to get good at that. So, so we talked about engaging with others genuinely, believing in your heart that people are not a means to an end because they're not. finding something to love in everyone, because in almost everyone there is something to care about. Now, I don't know about anybody's politics. I'm not a Donald Trump guy myself. But I will say something in support of Donald Trump. I know that a lot of people who know him personally have said that, people who have worked in his home and so forth have said some very positive things about him and how he is personally with the people who work for him. Now, and that I don't say that to get into any kind of politics or anything like that, just to say that even if you are someone who really, really dislikes someone else, Trump, for example, you can still look for the thing that is the thing you can batten on to to have a positive to have a positive relationship. Now, most of the time, it's much easier than that. Like almost everyone you meet, almost immediately will give you reasons to like them. But if there's someone that you need to connect with and you're not sure, well, I don't know if I'm going to like them or not, always be looking for the thing to love. And that's a good principle to operate on in life, is just looking for things to like in people. When you're asking questions of others, some people are like, "Well, I don't really know what to talk about." Focus on Ford, FORD, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Everybody loves talking about themselves. If you ask them about their family, their occupation. Now, some folks don't want to talk about work, and that's fine. But if they're the kind of folks you want to be networking with, they probably are at least willing to talk about their work. So family, occupation, recreation. What do they do for fun? Do they do yoga? Do they like to travel? Most folks like to travel to some degree or another. What do they do on the weekends? What do they do when they're not working on their startup? When they're not building their business. And then dreams. What do you care about? What are you focused on long term? What does impact mean to you? What does legacy mean to you? Everybody likes and especially business owners like answering those kinds of questions. So then the next step after that, once you've cultivated the relationship, is to manage follow up. Set reminders for yourself if needed. Some people are really good at follow up. Salespeople are often really good at follow up. And some of us are not as good at follow up and just have to give ourselves reminders. After I read that book, Never Eat Alone, regular check ins foster trust and deepen professional relationships. Well, so you might say, I haven't talked to this person in 13 years. Even if I call them with no agenda, they're going to think I'm calling them with an agenda. I will give you an absolute 100% foolproof hack for that. 100% watertight. Call them. If you take nothing else away from this, start keeping lists and you can do it on birthday alarm. That's where I do it. And I don't use Facebook. I don't trust Facebook because not everybody's birthday is on Facebook. So I just spoiled the ending. Call somebody on their birthday. Everybody loves to get a call on their birthday, even if they don't like the idea of their birthday. If you call them on their birthday, you will be memorable. Every single one of our employees at Proclaim, I call them on their birthday. Is one of the best culture builders we have is that the owner of our business, the CEO of our business, cares enough to call you and sing happy birthday to you. Now, you may be good at singing, you may be bad at singing. I'm pretty bad at singing, which is one of the best parts of it, is you get to hear a terrible birthday song from the CEO of your business. But if you want to prove to people that you care about them, remember their birthday and call them, don't text them. And if you go to voicemail, then send them a voice note over text and sing happy birthday to them. They want to hear your voice. If you want to convince somebody that you care about them, remember their birthday every year. I'm going to let that sit for a second because it's probably the most important thing I'm going to say today. So, birthdays, big deal. Not Christmas, not New Year's, not a holiday that's a holiday for everybody. Call them on their special day. And it's very easy to ask, hey, when's your birthday? I've been trying to be better about remembering people's birthdays. And every now and then somebody may tell you, I don't really want to get a call on my birthday. Then you can ask them, when's a good time to like check in with you? I care about you and I'd like to talk more often. Just to check in every now and then. That won't happen much. So if you're starting today, I want to get better at networking starting right now. Start by reaching out and offering help to other people that you already know. So you've got some established trust, right? And they might be like, "Well, what are you trying to get?" Nothing. I'm trying to be helpful, more helpful to the people I know. I'm trying to get better at maintaining relationships, and I wanted to start by offering to add value for something. They may say, "That's weird," and you may say, I don't know what to tell you. Like I'm just trying to be helpful. I have no hidden agenda. I'm just trying to get better at this. Will you will you can you forgive me for not being as good in the past? When you ask people for forgiveness, there's you're more likely to get buy-in. You can say, I'm sorry that I haven't been as good about this as I'd like to be, but I'm trying to get better at it, and I'd love for you to help me by telling me how can I be helpful to you? Who do you need to meet? Take a look at my network. Who's in my network that you need to know? Love to make an introduction for you. Yeah, generosity, 70% of success. I think this is something that Keith says in the book. Um, but this one has stuck in my head. Offer value first to others, share your resources generally with peers, and then full authenticity at all times. Don't be in this whole journey, don't be someone that you're not. Um, you show genuine interest in others' stories, and this requires sometimes doing some detective work to figure out what is the thing that they're into that I actually care about. Because if they start talking about, um, you know, Italian soccer. I'm a mild soccer fan and I love Italy, of course. But I'm not really into Italian soccer. If that's their thing, well, I care about it because I care about them, but we might need to find something else to relate over. So you're kind of looking for that thing. What is the thing that we can truly relate on? So I think that's the last slide. And with that, oh yeah, so I've just got a thank you, just a thank you slide. So we can open it up for Q&A. What would you guys like to know about networking? And by the way, I am not the, I enjoy building business relationships, but I'm certainly not like the world's expert on it. So you guys may have something to teach me. But I'm happy to answer any questions that I can, and hopefully those answers will be useful to you in some way. So floor's open. Feel free to unmute and ask, and then if somebody else is talking, just do the reaction and raise your hand, and we'll get a queue going. Or I can do some dancing. Happy to just dance for the next few minutes if we don't have any questions.
You could just sing too.
Yes. Oh well, I'm not. You know what? When we get to a year of the community, I'll sing a song. After the community's been running for a year, hold me to it, Kevin. I'll sing some kind of song.
So, how has been your experience by doing this? Like, go reaching out and what, uh, how not only how impactful it was, but like at which point you starting to ask before. I mean, yeah, you start building relationships. Either you go to one place or the other, or you just reach out in LinkedIn or whatever, right? But then it's at some point, like I'm guessing
When do you
when
start to feel the benefits?
when well, I'm guessing like your benefits will be at the time that when you start requiring something for work or for something personal that you need to achieve, so you will go and ask to your network, right? Or how you will do it.
Yeah, I so if you so I'll answer the question that I think yes, when you need to reach out for something and you know that the person is going to say, "Sure, I'd love to help you." That's obviously a great feeling. And that's cultivated out of they know that you if they called you and they needed a favor that you would say, "Sure, I'd love to help you." You want to build a reputation as the person who says, "Let's figure out how I can help you because I want to help you." um, and just sort of always being open so that the other side of this is that when people come to you that you do have to be open to that part of it. But uh, the I guess the other benefit though is um, is that it it's kind of like a muscle. when in that if you're really trying to like I'm always looking for things to like in people. I'm always looking for things to relate over. You get better at it over time and you get better at making those conversations and not feeling like things are weird when you're walking around the party just looking to talk to people. If you build that confidence of I am somebody who people want to know and I also want to know them. And people can sense that if they sense that you are open to connecting and that you want to connect genuinely with them, not that you're just trying to get them so you can use them, but if you genuinely want to connect and relate to them, then they respond well to that in almost every situation. And so the more you work on, I want to be that kind of person, the more you become that person. And this is there's kind of a critical mass. There's a momentum to this. One thing builds on another, and then all of a sudden you realize I got thousands of people that I could ask for a favor, and almost all of them would say yes, because you're just that kind of person. Um, you can build that. Like there is some native ability to that, but there it is also a skill. Am I answering your question, Jonathan?
Yeah, yeah. Like, yeah. So to me, I think the the hard part is to sort of like try to balance um, between work and everything else, and and give the time. I mean, I know in my case, it's like whenever I go and I mean, if I get to meet someone, it's like I am truly interested on what they are doing, or start asking questions and relate or start brainstorm there. But I personally don't actually spend time trying to connect with people or with random people um, just for the sake of it. You can say so. It's like if the thing happen, if there's some talk something that is happening and like I can contribute, it's like I'll go and do it. But I will not, but I don't have the tendency of going and just doing that first, you know, step and talking to someone who I don't know at all, just for the sake of just getting making conversation. Because I always feel like I have so much other important things to do at work or whatever. So it's like that is not at the top of my priority at the same time. So I don't know if, um, yeah, I mean that is what's happening at least to me.
Sure. Yeah, no, I get that. And it's something like this sort of thing, even having read that book, there was a certain degree to which like I I was I was I was wired to find that at that time. Like I was very open to that because this was something that was always important to me, and it may not be as important to you. It may not be as important to others. But the people, so let's just focus on the people that you do need to know for building your business or your potential customers, your potential investors. Um, Now you have to be a little bit careful with people who are customers and investors, because they may be a little bit, um, cautious about building a relationship with you. Um, but but I would say that it is important to practice this at least to some degree with people that can do nothing for you. And so Jonathan, your point is a good one in that there is a lot of important stuff to do at work, but in terms of um, kind of what is best use of your time, I would encourage you to consider the fact that this if you feel like you're not good enough at networking, then some of it I think is just prioritizing the activities that we're talking about in the presentation. And you can figure out which ones are easier for you and which ones are harder for you, which ones add the most value for others, which ones add the least amount of value for others, and prioritize things that are easy for you to do and add a lot of value for other people. Kevin, I see your hand. Um, so um, so Jonathan, then but spending some brain space on that and trying to figure out, all right, um how can I how can I start to add value for others, knowing that I have all these important things to do, but also knowing that, that people are important. Um, that might be a good place to start. Kevin, what was your thought?
I think, and I fall in the category of someone who can struggle with prioritizing friends and family because that is very important. That's like really where a lot of like the practice can come from, is understanding that like, hey, you know, people are your friends for a reason. They want to hear from you, right? And so having gone through that, I've had to teach myself as well to find, like, I mean, the founders group is a great example of a community that you don't necessarily always aim to get out of it what you put into it, and that's okay because you enjoy doing what you do, right? And so I think that for people who are more introverted like I am, I used to be a giant extrovert, and then you start running a business and then everything becomes just hassle sometimes, right? Is finding that cadence and people that you enjoy being around. You just don't know. You literally just will never know who you meet and what activities you have in common, right? Like you can ask somebody about, like, you know, like pets, family, if like pets are family. Do you like animals? And you can talk about animals, and it doesn't really matter. But you want to be someone that you want to be someone that you would like to hang out with. No one wants to help you if they don't like being around you. So learn to like yourself and be that person for that other person. Going like, okay, well, if I was the one on the other end, how would I like to be treated? And can I go from there?
Yeah, that's great advice, Kevin. Thank you for that. Um, yeah, yeah, I think, trying to be the type of, yeah, that I don't know if I could say it any better than that, trying to be the type of person that you would want to be friends with. And then, there's a Justin, I see your question. So Jonathan, was there anything else you wanted to touch on there, or should we move on?
Well, no, I mean, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the, this opportunity that you created of creating a group of founders, and like this thing that we are doing today, like the whole group um, is really valuable in that sense because it allows us to everyone like already be part of something that is interesting and like just if we are struggling finding people, at least we know like a place where we can just interact and be real, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And yeah, and you're right. Like this is a place to be real. Like it's totally okay that, for you that your prioritization looks a little bit different from mine. We are going to be, everybody, we are going to be different. We're going to have different ideologies, different politics, and all of that is okay. Yeah, I mean there's limits to certain things, but for the most part, we try to welcome all people. And so I'm going to jump to Justin's question that he dropped in chat, and then Ray, I see your hand as well. So Justin asked, have you found certain places or types of events that are best to find new contacts, especially when you're trying to do something in a slightly different field? Kevin mentioned that in the US and Canada, Meetup is always fun. Um, and yeah, I agree with that. I would also say kind of whatever the activity is, it's always okay to ask kind of the person that you're sort of sitting next to. Like if you're new at school, like talk to the person that you're sitting next to in class. And if you're not, if you're not comfortable talking to the person that you're sitting next to, honestly, this is I I think it's okay to say it this way. Like approach the person who looks most like you. And in general, I would say we want to be equal opportunity. We want to make friends who don't look like us, who don't talk like us, who don't think like us. But when you're the new person and you're just trying to make a new friend, I think it's totally okay to to lean into the stereotype a little bit and just go talk to somebody who has the same haircut you do, who dresses like you, who looks like you. That's safer than saying talk to the person who looks, walks, talks nothing like you. If you're just trying to get that first in, go talk to whoever you're comfortable talking to, and then say, "Hey, what do you like? What do you guys do for fun? What are you doing this weekend? Like, what? I'm new. I'm sorry. Like, it's always okay to qualify it and be a little apologetic and say, just trying to figure out what the best way is to connect with folks. What are your thoughts on that? Um, so, um, yeah, so I like to do it organically. But if anybody has other recommendations, I appreciate Kevin's recommendation of Meetup. Facebook groups may have good opportunities. Um, I wouldn't say Reddit is normally not for coordinating like social events. But there are probably other services that do that kind of thing. If anybody has any thoughts, you're welcome to post either a reply to Justin's chat or a new chat. My approach is usually organic. I find it's always easier if I'm talking to somebody who kind of already knows what's going on. And if they don't, then you can find somebody else and then you can both learn something. So, um, and if you're looking for ways to connect with people within this founders group, you can always come talk to me. So I like connecting people. I like putting them together and helping them find community, and that's one of my gifts is the ability to do that and to do it pretty well. So happy to put that to use for the benefit of everyone. Ray, you've got your thanks for being patient. I see you've had your
Yeah,
hand up for a little bit.
that's all right. How you doing?
Yeah.
So, do you have any tip for people who don't have a network and want to start networking? Because it's kind of a credibility kind of thing to have a huge following or contacts, right? And I see firsthand that when you don't have a huge network and you start or want to start networking, they see that you don't have a huge following. It's kind of like you get ghosted, to be honest, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
your credibility kind of, you're lacking credibility if you don't have a huge network.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. I would say that well, so if you're on LinkedIn, for example, I would the first thing I would do is I would look around for people that you have some kind of connection with, either people that you went to school with or people that you grew up with or people whatever. Like, so for me, if somebody from high school or even middle school adds, I'm 43 years old, and if somebody from middle school that I went to school with 30 years ago, if they add me on LinkedIn, there's nobody that I would turn down. Maybe there's somebody, but there's just not like I would say yes to everybody because what's the harm in it? Being connected on LinkedIn is just not that big a deal. So but on that principle, if you start adding the people that you went to middle school with or high school or college or whatever, anybody that you went to school with, anybody that you played on a sports team with, you can add those people. Not all of them will say yes, but that's a good way of, you know, they're not going to say, "How dare you add me on LinkedIn? We haven't spoken." No, nobody is going to say that to you. Like
Yeah,
they'll either accept the request or they won't. The worst they can say is no. So there's no downside to you just adding people that you have some sort of connection with on LinkedIn. And everyone that agrees to connect with you, they show up as part of your network. So you'll only benefit from that. You can also, depending on where you're trying to build sort of your network. For example, if you're in B2C, then you want to, depending on how old your market is, you probably also want to be on another social network as well. If
right,
your market is a little bit, they're a little bit older, you want to be on Facebook. They're kind of youngish to middle age, you want to be on Instagram. And if
right.
they're super young, you want to be on TikTok. Um, but there's no harm in putting accounts on all of those and then just following your friends. It's okay
Yeah,
if you're following more people than you have followers. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times people will follow you back. And on Instagram, I pretty much only follow people back. I mean, there's a few influencers that I followed over the years, but at this point I'm not looking for new ones. So I just follow back the people who have added me. And I'm like, oh yeah, Rusty. I haven't talked to Rusty in 15 years. I wonder what he's up to. I'll follow him back on Instagram,
right.
and then add your friends on Facebook. So
All
just
right.
I would just say start adding people. The worst they can
Yeah,
say is, "Nah, I'm not interested."
yeah. Gotta practice that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks for the question, Jonathan.
So my other question would be like, for example, in LinkedIn, right? How important is when you're creating this network? How important it is to constantly be sharing content and all those things there. Um, yeah,
Well, it
I
depends on what your goals are. So I share a fair bit of content on LinkedIn. Some of it does really well, some of it honestly doesn't do so well. But I try to be really authentic and say stuff that I really mean. And I know that people have had varying degrees of success developing content with AI and so forth. I have tried not to do that. I don't have any problem with anybody who has. I know someone who's on this call who got an enormous amount of success with a post that was primarily AI generated recently, and I have no issue with that. Like that person got more engagement on a single post than I did in the last 2 months. And that, so I can't take any issue with that. And I know the post like came from the heart, despite the fact that the words might have been from an AI, the intent was from here. And so no judgment of any of that. But in terms of, yeah, I would say if you want LinkedIn to be, so LinkedIn is sort of two things. It is a way for direct connection. It's also a way for developing thought leadership and to some degree authority marketing. Um, so so if you just want the connections and just want to be able to talk to people directly, there is certainly value in that all by itself, even if you never post anything. But if you want to, if you want to be taken seriously as a thought leader in your space, if you want to be able to sell based on the value of your network, then yes, it is a good idea to be posting content. Kevin, you may have some thoughts on this as well. Is Kevin still with? Yeah, there's Kevin. People keep like jumping around on the screen depending on whose hand is up. But Kevin, do you have any thoughts on this? You and I have talked a little bit around network and business development. You have any thoughts on posting on LinkedIn?
I think that, and my LinkedIn is quite bare, and it's actually one of the things I'm trying to work on now is writing blog posts about literally anything that comes to mind about the business, right? So like if your customers win, write about it, right? I'm about to write a new blog post about a customer of mine that launched a new catalog on the system. And so I'm gonna write, look, we've had this customer that launched this catalog, they're aiming for these clients, and this is what we can do, and we celebrate their wins. Because your customers' wins are your wins. And then their customers, your customers will then go, oh, someone got tagged in that, and they'll read it and go, oh, what is this company? And that you just never know. So at the end of the day, you write, and it might sound like you're faking it till you make it, but I mean, we're all founders here. We know nothing until we know something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and that like so I'm gonna plug a post of my own that is doing exactly what Kevin said, basically just bragging on somebody else. So yeah, I get the engagement on LinkedIn, but this is a post that is about Teresa. Teresa is a founder that I've been endorsing. And she just got a big declaration of support from a major angel network. And I can't say exactly the details, but you can infer whatever you wish. And this is a post that I put up to share some of Teresa's success. And honestly, this post didn't do quite as much engagement as I thought it would. And so I got to figure out, all right, maybe is there a way to make this a little bit better to where it'll sing a little bit more? One of the things is I did not tell her that I was doing it, and she herself did not engage with the post yesterday, which was a dumb mistake by me. But I sent her an email this morning, and hopefully she'll drop a like on it herself. So you guys are welcome to drop a like and a comment on that if you want to. But that is the kind of thing that yeah, I agree very much with Kevin, and I certainly agree with the last thing that he said, which is we're all founders and we all know nothing until we know something. So here's a great example of that. So I put on my LinkedIn front and center 7x founder, 7-time founder. I'm very proud of that. Now the thing that I don't put right next to that is 1x exit, because what is 7 minus 1? 6. That's the number of businesses I had that did not exit. And not all of them were like failures. A couple of them were treading water. And one of them is still around, but I'm certainly not going to sell it. It's not an acquirable business or a saleable business, and it's not going to be a cash cow. So I've had a bunch of failures in my past. And Nikki, I see your question. We'll get to that one in just a second. But yeah, we all know nothing until we know something. Just keep chopping wood. Just keep chopping wood. We're different. And it's okay that we're different. Like I was never going to be the guy who was going to go make 1.5 million a year in, enterprise software sales. Sometimes I'm a little jealous of those people because I feel like their lives are simpler and more straightforward than mine. Sometimes I wish I had that, but it's not what I was made for. And it's nice to be sitting here with an exit saying that, but it's always been true, even when the differences were much less beneficial to me. So we are different, and we should accept our differences. We have community here. We're founders, and there's pride in that, even when we don't know anything yet. Nikki, I see your question. Do you think we should do a virtual meeting to build a stronger connection, or is LinkedIn chat enough? That's a great question. And it depends. It depends on who the person is. I like taking meetings, and I sometimes I have to pull back on myself some because, Jonathan was talking earlier about how he's got like the work has to get done, and where do I make time for the meetings? And I have the opposite problem where I'm like, well, the meetings have to get done. Where am I going to find the time for the work? And so I have to police myself on how many meetings I allow myself to take because I will just line meetings up for the entire day if I let myself, and I cannot do that. That's not would not be a good way for me to do business now. I have to do some of the work myself. So Nikki, to answer your question is um, use your judgment. I think um, it's good to I think you can have a sense of, am I booking too many meetings or am I not booking enough meetings? One thing that I will say is you can get a lot of leverage out of 15 minutes. I almost never, unless it's with a group and we know we're going to have a lot of stuff to discuss. But even at Proclaim, our staff meetings are 30 minutes. I almost never do 60-minute meetings these days. And I would never ever take a 60-minute first meeting. So 30 minutes and even 15. It's okay. I do not think it's insulting to send a 15 or 20-minute meeting link, just to get to know you. And so I think that it's a great idea, to going back to your question, uh, building a stronger connection through a meeting. You use your judgment on when that's appropriate, who it's appropriate with, but as a general rule, I think that's a great thing. Everybody's better face to face, voice to voice, even if it's virtual. In person is the best version of this, where you're actually sitting in a room with somebody, but virtual is like pretty dang good. Phone call is okay. And then a LinkedIn chat is probably, next to last, and then emails last because there's no face at all. It's just text. Um, but yeah, I would say short virtual meetings can be very helpful in terms of building an actual relationship with somebody. God bless Zoom, man, because it has really made a difference in terms of just the ease of, like, I feel like I know Adam Reinhart. I feel like I know Kevin. I feel like I know Johan because I see his face on all these meetings. Like I know that I know, when he smiles and at something I said that was funny. Like that means something. We're wired to appreciate people's faces and expressions and so forth. So I think those virtual meetings can be very helpful, Nikki. Ray, I saw you raised your hand. If you still have a question, go ahead and ask it, and if
Oh,
not,
no,
we'll
no,
get
no,
to
no, it's okay.
Kevin's.
I thought you were going to say my name as well, but you didn't, so that's
Oh, okay. I feel like I know you too, Ray. But
fine.
but
It's cool, it's
actually,
cool.
so something on that. If you're on video for these, nobody has to be
Yeah,
on video ever. But
yeah.
actually, that does foster faster relationship.
Oh,
And
all right. Yeah.
I would love to see your face, Ray.
Oh, all right, cool.
Um,
Next time I'll be with you.
Okay, yeah,
All right.
by no means required. Nobody has to put their face on camera by any means, but
No,
it
no, it's not a
does.
problem. It's just that I have background with my kid and my girlfriend, so still don't want to.
Yeah. No, that's okay. That's okay.
But next
Um,
time I'll go to another room and we can.
okay, no problem. Kevin, you had your hand up.
And I think one thing that we all fear is failure, right? We're all founders. We all fear failure, and inherently, because we fear failure, we inherently shy away from things that can maybe foster failure, such as like reaching out to somebody and going, "Well, they're just going to ignore me, so I'm not gonna worry about that," right? And so that's something that I've had to overcome personally as well, is understanding, like, we're talking about fundraising on Friday, and a lot of it's going to be like, hey guys, you're going to fundraise and it's going to feel like a black hole a lot of times. And people are going to say, oh, that was really interesting, but it's not my jam. And you're going to go, okay, that's fine. And after 100 meetings, you're like, all right, and you can't be discouraged, because like you've got to keep going, right? And that goes with, like, finding new friends, finding new people, connecting with people on LinkedIn. Shoot off a message. If they ignore you, okay, keep shooting off another message, and then just go, hey, we can obviously talk about things that can help that, and not let it bounce back as much. Talk about them, not you, etc. But I think that we just have to all recognize, as founders, that we are inherently likely going to fail, and that's just the
Yes.
numbers, and we just have to accept that. And a lot of times, a lot of investment companies like a one-time failure founder. A lot of
Yeah.
times they look for that. They go, hey, have you failed before? And you go, yes. And you go, what did you learn? And you tell them, and they go, okay, well, they're not going to make that mistake again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Y Combinator, actually, specifically, I know we love Y Combinator. Everybody probably knows who that is. For anyone who doesn't know, Y Combinator. By the way, Kevin, would you drop the link for your Friday webinar in the chat? A big plug for Kevin, and thank you, Kevin, for helping us out by leading a webinar yourself on Friday. And he'll drop that link down below in the chat. But Y Combinator, most famous accelerator, is a big business accelerator that's, I think, one of the oldest ones and certainly the biggest one. Well-known Silicon Valley accelerator. But what they look for two things. And I got this on authority from a guy who's gotten a couple of his own companies in there and has gotten like 10 of his portcos in there. So, which is an outstanding record of success. He told me what YC is looking for is two things. And I might have posted about this on the subreddit at one point. But he said they're looking for ideas that are crazy enough that they shouldn't be working, that have somehow generated traction anyway. And they look for a founder team, preferably a team rather than an individual founder, that has failed together previously, because they can manage the failure and that the relationships don't fall apart and they don't start punching each other on the way to the lifeboats. Um, One other thing that I do want to plug. So everybody, I know that a lot of people in the community have been excited about the opportunity to pitch, to pitch their company. And so that I posted about this the other night, but there's been a lot flying around on the Discord, so I understand if the form got lost. But I'm going to drop that link in, and if you would like to pitch to investors, myself for sure, and then other investors around the community, feel free to fill out the pitch submission form. So everybody who's in the Discord will get a chance to pitch, and then we'll open it up to people who are on the email list but have not joined the Discord yet. So if you do want to pitch, there's that. I'm not gonna spam that form again in the Discord just yet, but we only have one person who's submitted, and I know that I know that like 60, 70 people came in with an interest in doing that. So if that's you, please feel free to fill out the form. Does anybody have any questions about either Kevin's webinar on Friday or the pitch form?
Yeah, related to the pitch. Um,
Yeah.
so the thing is, I haven't done it because I feel like I is what I have to show is not good enough.
Oh,
Basically,
okay.
either it doesn't have the traction that we have talked about. I mean, I've been building my stuff. It's super cool and all that, but the thing is that at the end of the day, it's like it's still pre-revenue. and there are many other things that I don't think that people will take it seriously, and unless it has, people paying, it has attraction, it has all these different things that to me I think, I mean, if they don't, I don't, if it doesn't have it, or I don't have them, I don't feel it's even worth spending the time on just doing the pitch.
Okay, so first of all, I feel your concern there. I affirm your hesitation. I understand why you would feel that way. Second thing is the whole point of but let me offer you some encouragement now. The whole point of this community is to be able to pitch when you're not ready yet. Like yeah, if you are ready and you're ready to pitch, yeah, please do. But the whole idea of this community is come one, come all. Like let's all get together and help each other with no expectations. And so Jonathan, it's totally, and you can put a note on that in the survey if you'd like to. Um, I don't know if there's a free form response field, but when you submit your deck, if you'd like to send me a note, because I'll certainly be involved with the pitch process, and I've now heard you say this as well. But don't let that stop you. First, like you should be practicing your pitch as well as building the other parts of your startup. Like it's no problem if you want to get in a room with me or with other investors or with me and other investors, and just work on your pitch and say, hey guys, this is my first time doing this and I apologize if it's not great. And the truth is it may not be great, and that's okay. This is a safe space. This is a place where you can take some shots and you can ask some questions and you can learn about the process, because that's what we're all here to do, is fucking learn, right? If we're learning, we're winning. So
Okay,
so
yeah. So then,
be Oh, I'm sorry.
I will spend some time on it then.
Okay, sounds good. And Kevin, you had something as well.
I think that, like kind of plugging some more of like the Friday thing. Well, I'm gonna gear a lot of Friday towards pre-revenue and like you're barely making any traction, that type of like how much should you raise and what should you ask for? Because just with like the couple of people that have reached out to me about mentorship, a lot of that is the question like, well, Kevin, how much do I raise? And I've had people coming into like 5 grand to like 30 grand, and I challenge them. I go, hey, what if I said to you something along the lines of, hey, 5 grand is fine, but there's not really a lot there, is it? What happens if something doesn't go right? Do you have to raise again? And so a lot of that pitching practice will come with really knowing the space. And then once you understand the space a little bit better, you'll become more confident. I think one thing, I mean, I'll give you an example. I was pitching my company, I think it was 3 months ago, for a potential seed round, and I had 25 companies come in, both from seed to VCs. All of them said no. All of them said no. But the reasoning wasn't because they didn't like the company. They just said you're not there yet, but it's not because you don't like the company, it's because I think you're asking for too little or too much. Right? So just keep practicing. You're going to get a lot of no's. In fact, Ben, with your permission, I'd like to see if like there's a group that we can create that goes pitch practice. Just pitch to one of us. We're not investors. We're here to challenge you about
Yes.
that kind of stuff. And then we'll just that way, like even if I were to talk to Ben, yeah, he's gonna say, Kevin, no pressure. There's gonna be pressure because we think that there might be an interest, right? And
Yeah.
so just to kind of go, hey guys, pitch to me. I'm not going to invest, don't worry, but you never know. But let's practice. I want to feel the excitement. That's another thing that people have said to me. I'm generally really even keeled, and all the investors went back to my advisors and went, I don't know if Kevin's excited about the company anymore. I'm like, no, I'm very excited. I just don't want to go too far, and that was an issue, and now we can talk about that, right? So don't,
So so
generally speaking,
Kevin,
don't worry about it.
yeah, that's a yes for sure. One other insight on what Kevin actually, the very last thing that he said, is there's actually, so you might feel like, so he said investors might tell you you're asking for too little or too much. He said investors might tell you you're not excited enough. By the way, they might also tell you you're too excited. Like, so there's a balance on both of those things. Yeah, exactly. Yes, John, I'm with you. Like, so the so I will tell I'll share with you. I'm gonna wait for Kevin to talk about the asking for too little or too much, because I think he'll have some pretty specific guidance. I was talking with Kaju yesterday, I think it was, and I was telling him, for me, the questions that I ask about valuation, there's two of them. Are there previous exits on the founder team? How many? And if so, and then are you pre-revenue or post-revenue? And once you've answered those two questions, there's a pretty wide range that the valuation could fall in. But if the valuation falls in that range, I'm open to further conversation. And it's just those two questions. Those are the only that is the big picture of where the valuation could sit. And Kevin will tell you guys more about that on Friday. On the excitement piece of it, though, because I think there's what I want, I think, is I want the founder to be the most excited person in the room about their project by a relatively small degree. So you want to be bringing the energy up, but you don't want to be way up here if everyone else is down here. You'll kind of feel the room and you can kind of feel like, what's the body language? Are people engaging with you? Like, are they smiling? Are they leaning forward, or are they on their phones? And you can kind of tailor your energy around that. By the way, some investor networks do like a founder that's a little more chill, and some investor networks like a founder who's a little more energetic. So the way that I heard this described in the movie business once is, went dress code for, now I'm not talking about dress code for founders, that's another conversation. But in the movie business, a friend told me, as a creative, when you're talking with studio execs, you want to be the most casually dressed person in the room by the smallest possible degree. I think you can apply that same thing to founder energy. You want to be the most energetic person in the room by a small degree, or the smallest degree. So you're bringing the room up just a little bit. By the way, Jonathan, you were talking about the other thing you mentioned that I forgot to address earlier was traction. So here is a list of the most valuable forms of startup traction, and I'm going to be talking a lot longer than you think. Revenue, especially recurring with growth. Obviously, that's number one. Paid customer growth, and that's, that, like, the number of customers then, and then revenue is top. But then these are non-financial. User engagement, high usage frequency, stickiness, like, and that's not just buyers. That's like who's engaging with your socials. So then after that, it's partnerships, strategic alliances, distribution deals, letters of intent, wait lists, pre-orders, committed future demands, marketplace liquidity for platforms, GMV, even if you haven't, even if you're not producing revenue, GMV is a big deal. Transaction volume, then media, PR, virality, this stuff going viral. That it's hard to make that happen, but if it does happen, obviously that's valuable. Strong organic awareness, pilot programs we talk, and then LOIs, that sort of thing. Letters of interest. If you can't get a letter of intent, get a letter of interest. Customer surveying, like, we got strong interest from this, all of this. And you can probably sense that this list is in order to some degree, but all of this is better than zero. And it's okay if you're at zero. But trying to generate forms of traction that don't involve somebody handing you hard-earned money, those still mean something. Those are still traction, even if they're not as strong as revenue. IP or tech breakthroughs. I mean, the whole medical devices industry is built on stuff that doesn't have revenue yet, but that does have a strong IP or tech breakthrough. And then team or talent traction. Like, what did you have a member of your co-founder team who worked at Google, who worked with Google? Like, you can put names. I have no issue as an investor with somebody putting logos on their team page that are of partners that they worked with, even if they weren't working for that company. Now, you got to be clear about that. You can't You got to make sure you're not misleading people. But if so we're working Proclaim, the business we're selling right now, close in 3 weeks with any luck. Yes, thank you. But one of the outfits that we've worked with Proclaim is NASA. And I would, if I'm on a founder deck at some point soon and we're doing logos, NASA is a logo that I'm going to put up. And I'll mention I didn't work for NASA, but we had a partnership with them. And that means something. So, farming your experience and the experience of your co-founders for those logos that mean something to somebody, to mean something to a lot of people. Um, that's that's traction to some degree.
In a pitch, do you demos?
No,
No.
no, no. In a deep dive, maybe. In a pitch to an investor network or first pitch to a VC, absolutely not. Yes, Kevin.
You're solving a problem. You're not going to demo it. You demo it, there's so much that the investor is going to go, well, what about that? What about that? All of a sudden, you're not talking about nothing else but how your system could be better. Don't do
Yes.
that. You're solving the problem. I used to make that mistake so much. My advisors literally had to browbeat me to not do it because you're excited about the platform. That's great. You get it, but you're solving a problem. To
Yeah.
kind of wind it back to what we're talking about today. How do you guys find these co-founders? How do you guys find these people that want to work with you? It's all by making new friends, by making these new connections.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
talk to people,
Yeah.
right? You just don't know. Like it could be, it could be the guy that you have a coffee with. You're sitting there, the guy's working on stuff. You're like, hey, like, what are you working on? I see you here every day. And the guy's like, oh, I'm say you're working on a SaaS product. You go, guys, like there's not a small possibility that if you go to a techie area and the guy's working on his laptop in a coffee shop, probably a coder somewhere, probably
Yeah.
coding. So
Yeah.
you
Um,
just don't know.
yeah. And to briefly add to that, Kevin, so nobody's going to pretend here that life is fair. It's not fair. And I will be the first to say, from a life perspective, I was born on third base. I'm never going to act like I hit a triple to get here. My family did well when I was younger. We're not billionaires or anything, but we did well. I had every opportunity. Teachers believed in me, coaches believed in me, friends believed in me. I had every kind of privilege imaginable. So I'm not going to pretend that I did all this myself. Um, but but to what Kevin was saying earlier, to some degree, others care about you to the degree that you care about others. And so the universe will, to some degree, give you back what you put into it. And if what you put into it is a desire to help others and a desire to make their lives better and a desire to, to know them, to see them, to understand them, the universe will give that back to you 100%. Bank on it. I've seen it play out a million different ways over the course of my life. So some of us are in, more fortunate situations, less fortunate situations, but to some degree, you will get back what you put in. And that's never more true than networking. Anything else? Any other questions? I kept you guys all a little bit over time, so I apologize for that. Am I late for a meeting? No, not late for a meeting. But does anybody have any other questions?
Can I share my pitch whenever I have it ready with Kevin and you? And
Yes, please
Yeah,
do.
I
I'll
would like
open up a new like kind of area for people to kind of like just share pitches and like practice pitches. And then what I'll probably do is I'll probably set a timer, which is going to literally be 15 minutes and go, you should be done by now. So before we do that, you time yourself and you go, how much time am I using on each slide, while recognizing that you likely will speed up when you speak to an investor, because when you talk to yourself, you're gonna be nice and relaxed. But the second you get in front of an investor, it's gonna be all about this. You're gonna forget about your lines, and then you'll have to figure out where you're gonna stumble, and then kind of go from there. But I'll help with Ben with creating that kind of thing where you just practice pitching, and then you record yourself, and you'll notice where you stumble, and then because at the end of the day, after 15 minutes, you want to reserve that time for questions. And then if there are no questions, you can prod questions as well to go, hey, I've been in other meetings and these are the common questions that come about, right? I can tell you right now, it can be sometimes awkward when you get done with your 15, 20 minutes and all of a sudden it's just silence and you're like, well, that was fun.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about this. There's going to be another webinar in the next couple of weeks on pitch structure, more specifically on pitching, and hopefully that'll allay some of your concerns, Jonathan. But what'll usually happen if you're pitching to an angel network, and VC is a little bit different and varies a little bit more, but all the angel networks that I've been to, they'll give you 8 to 12 minutes of structured presentation and then 8 to 12 minutes of Q&A, and then they'll kick you out of the room for 5 to 6 minutes, and the investors will speak amongst themselves, and then they'll have 2 or 3 minutes of transition so that it breaks out into nice 30-minute blocks. But what that means is you've got 8 to 12 minutes. It depends a little on the network, whether it's 8, 12, 10, but it's usually something in there for structured pitch, and then another 8 to 12 for Q&A. And you can kind of time around that. VCs will usually give you more time, but they'll also be interrupting during the presentation, if it's all from the same outfit. But we'll talk more about that in much more detail on the pitch-oriented webinar, which will probably be next week or maybe week after next. Anything else? Thank you guys so much. They're great questions, and we always get great questions, but this was particularly, felt like there was a lot of honesty in the room today and a lot of, a little bit of vulnerability. And so that's what we're here for. We're here to be real and to have real conversations about real shit. And hopefully to all, to be a part of each other's success in some small way. Thanks for the
Thank
time.
you.
I'll go ahead and shut the meeting down unless anybody has anything else.
Thanks, Ben.
All
Thanks,
right.
Kevin.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye, fellas.